My name is Hannah Selinger, and my book is Valley of the Moms, debut fiction. It is a literary thriller set in Hamilton, Massachusetts, on the North Shore of Massachusetts. A book about a woman who has uh, she dies very early in the book, and it's a dual POV book and dual timeline book about how she has come to how this tragedy has befallen her and her entanglements with the local parent-teacher organization.
Yeah, I love it. And it's been a while since I've had the chance to talk to somebody about a novel. So we won't talk that much about the plot because I feel like the fun part of reading it is the sort of mystery.
Yes.
Even, from like I didn't read anything about it before I read it because I just like going in blind. So, it's very early when you find out that she's died,
Yeah.
but it was still a surprise. It was like and I was just like super interested in like what was going to happen at every turn. So, really really like fun. I mean, sad, but fun book
Thank
to
you.
read. Um so yeah, I feel like I have so many questions to ask you because your career is so interesting. Just like going from, I listened to another podcast where you talked about going into freelance journalism, and then now you have this novel. So, do you want to talk a little bit about how you got to this book?
Yeah, although it's sort of a story in reverse. Also, I'll do a little plug too because this book was just chosen as Barnes and Noble's June book club pick. So that's a very big deal.
Cool.
I knew about it a couple of months ago, but we were just able to announce it because they announced it in an email. So it's public information now. So that's a very big deal. It's going to
Mhm.
be promoted through all of the stores. Um, my career actually it's super non-linear, but in 2005 I graduated with my Master of Fine Arts in Fiction from Emerson College, and I was a Presidential Merit Fellow, which is not given out every year from that program. So it's the highest award that they give out from the Master of Fine Arts. It's almost a complete financial fellowship that pays for almost the entire program. So I originally thought that I was going to go into fiction as a field, and in fact, I studied fiction. I got my degree at Columbia in English and comparative literature, but I took a great deal of fiction classes. I studied under Jhumpa Lahiri as an undergraduate. So my intention when I first knew that I wasn't going to go to law school, which is what my parents did, both my parents were attorneys. My mother still practices at 73, was to be a novelist. And very quickly after graduating from an MFA program, I was sort of like, well, that's an insolvent way to make a living. I don't know how people actually do this. I sold a couple of short stories to like highfalutin literary journals for like, $8 in contributor copies. And I was like, well, that doesn't really pay the bills. As an undergrad, I was an intern for the New Yorker. And back then in the early 2000s, those were all unpaid internships. Um, and so again, I think I thought like, there's not really a way to do this, and only really lucky people get to write novels. And maybe I'm not like that lucky. So maybe I have to find another way to make a living. And so, long story short, I went into restaurants, which I think is what a lot of people who envision themselves to be artists do, particularly when they live in New York, which is where I found myself in 2005 after I graduated. And so, for a really long time, I was in the restaurant industry, working my way up from first a server, which back then was called in fine dining, I was called a captain. And then slowly I became a sommelier. And that was a long trajectory for me. It was a long learning process. I was in that industry for close to 15 years. I worked for some really notable chefs. I worked under Laurent Tournesol, who at that point had both 2 and 3 stars for the New York Times. I worked as the beverage director for David Chang while he was getting reviewed by the New York Times. I managed his entire beverage program through Good and Ugly. I worked under Bobby Flay for a really short period of time before I was fired. Um, and then my father was diagnosed with ALS in 2009, and so I left the business pretty permanently. I went back for a short period of time in 2013 in the Hamptons, and then met my husband and kind of went into wine distribution, and then started freelancing uh, permanently as my career around um, 2013. I started like dabbling, and then I permanently started freelancing in 2015. So um, it was like a strange way to come back to fiction. I didn't actually start working on a novel again until 2024.
Wow, that's awesome. And then you sold it right away, I guess.
Yes, within a couple of months.
That's amazing.
But I
Like,
already had an agent at that point
mhm.
because I had already sold my memoir Cellarat. So it's much easier. Novels are incredibly difficult to sell, particularly if you're coming at it cold. And I had attempted to sell books in between. There was like periods of time when I had tried to get an agent. This wasn't the first time I had tried to get an agent, but I had already established myself as a nonfiction writer. And when I got an agent, the getting an agent for me was agents approaching me after I had um, been nominated for a James Beard Award for an essay that I had written about my experiences in the restaurant and wine industry. I had sort of carved out a niche for myself and I was established. And so agents came to me based on my nonfiction writing and they wanted me to write a proposal. And then I sold Cellarat. And then I had an agent or two agents as it happens, because I have a junior and a senior agent. And then I had an editor. And once that relationship was in existence, it was much easier for me to go to those people who knew me and knew my work and approach them with an idea that was offset, but they trusted who I was. Going in cold would have been a completely different thing.
Mm-hmm. So you sold it before you finished writing it, or you had
No,
already
I
finished it?
wrote the manuscript. I sold
Mm-hmm.
Cellar Rat before I finished writing it. I sold that on proposal. And then I actually have another book coming out next year, which is another novel. And I did sell that before I wrote it. I sold that an outline.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Like,
that was crazy.
congratulations.
Thank you.
I feel like it's kind of the dream, like and it's so weird because I hear from a lot of people, like, if you sell a memoir, it's really hard to move into fiction. Like, it's almost like a completely different process, even though we can all, of course, or many of us can write whatever we want, which I think is sort of part of freelance journalism. Like, you just learn to write in a lot of different
Yes.
forms and tones. But it's really nice to hear that it happened so fast for you through your relationships with these folks. Um,
I think if you take the knowledge that you have from freelance journalism, right? Like, so what are you always taking away from freelance journalism? It's the relationship and not necessarily like that you're supposed to ultimately focus on the relationship that you have with the editor. That is the premium, that you should always preserve that relationship, that if your editor goes to another publication, if you've done a good job with that editor, if you've filed on time, if your copy is clean, if you're reliable, if your reporting is intact, if you have good backup, then all of these things will save you in the end. Because if I have a long-term editor, for instance, at Travel and Leisure, and when I am at that publication, I've been there for 6 years as a contributor. I'm always with him. It doesn't matter what part of the book I'm in, I'm always with that editor. If he were to leave TNL, I know that he would take me with him no matter where were to end up. And I think I apply those same principles to my work at Little Brown. I'm with my editor, Vivian, and if she were to leave LB, I would likely go with her wherever she were to go.
mhm,
I really see this as, I think there are a lot of authors who are sort of like, don't kill my darlings, and like my work is so precious and I am the artist. And I have always seen this through the prism of being a freelancer, which is that, nothing I write is so important that you can't adjust it. I see writing as a collaborative process, and I think if you really view it that way, then you're much more valuable on the market.
Hmm. I completely agree. Because I was an editor. I've been an editor far longer than I've been a freelance journalist. But like, yeah, it seems like it's really weird to me because it's like editing makes things better.
Yes.
It's nice to have more eyes. Like, if I don't know, like to me, it's like a privilege if somebody's like reading something very closely. Like I too, I had like a really similar trajectory. I just haven't gotten a book out yet, but I do have an agent. But like I just, every once in a while I'll send something to a literary journal, and I have like one thing coming out this year. And I was just looking at the edits the other day and I'm like, these are just great questions. Like this piece is so much better for these like, these little interns are asking these
Right.
questions. It's amazing. Like I'm so like appreciative. Like I never would have considered.
You
And I
can't
don't know.
see everything, you can't
Yeah.
like we're myopic, right? Like we can only see what we can see. From everything from like a spelling error to um something, maybe I changed the name of a character because I forgot. It's 80,000 words. Like, you
Yeah.
don't know what you did at the beginning. I sit down and I write 1,000 words a day, and like even if you reread something, it's like maybe there's an inconsistency in the plot. Maybe
Hmm.
I decided to change something at the end of the manuscript than I did at the beginning. No matter how many times you read through something, your mind gets numb. You
Yeah.
get bored with your own. I get so sick of myself,
Yeah.
like,
Me too.
right? Um, so to have somebody else's perspective is invaluable.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I'm really interested in how you plotted this book out. I've interviewed one other person who writes like several different genres of fiction, and writing a kind of literary thriller is like becoming my favorite genre to both read and like hear about. So I'd love to know how you decided on the different turns in the book, and whether you just wrote or actually like plotted it out first.
Yeah, so this was pantsing. I the next book was plotting, and I'm working on a fourth book. So I sold I the next package was a 2 book deal. So I sold this in a 1 book deal, and then I sold a 2 book deal. And when I sold the 2 book deal, I sold it on an outline and then a nothing. So it was like I sold it on like the 2 book deal had like an outline for the 27 book and then like a nothing for the 28. Like they were just like and also whatever. So this book I was pantsing, which is to say that I was like outlining like the next couple of chapters and like I think this is what's going to happen and then kind of like but I don't know what's going to happen after that. And it was just flying by the seat of my pants. Um, and for the 27 book, because I had an outline that was super plotted because they had already approved what was going to happen. So very different. And obviously for my memoir, that came out of a proposal, so that was already plotted also, different style. Um, it's funny because when it's not plotted, it's almost like the characters are doing the talking as you're writing it. So it's almost like they're self-directing, and I'm finding that with the piece that I'm working on right now, which I'm almost finished with. It's like the characters are telling you what they want to do. But it's hard because you have to kind of remember what you were doing at the beginning, and it's very self-referential. So you're like scrolling back into this 80,000 word manuscript to be like, and what did they say at the beginning? And like, is this consistent? And there's it's hard. Um, I won't lie and say that like that's the best way to do it. But it's also it can be surprising and a lot of fun. Um, so there are a lot of writers who swear by one method. I I don't. I think I'm just sometimes I do one thing and sometimes I do another.
I get that. That resonates with me a lot. I want to talk as much as you're willing to about the plot, though. Like, I feel like we have to kind of stay away from a lot of it because it's so like the process of reading it is just like to me, it's more like about the surprise than other genres. But I lived in Beverly for a year, so
Oh,
yeah, I wanted to know what you like. The book starts with setting, and it just
yes.
seems like setting is very, very important in
Yeah.
a lot of different ways, like with the social aspects, the mom, the PTO and all that stuff. Do you want to talk about how setting works and why you chose to set it where you did?
Yeah, I actually very much think of the setting as another character in the book. I'm from the North Shore of Massachusetts originally. I'm originally from Newburyport, Massachusetts. I live in Boxford. My original vision for the book was to set it in Boxford, and then my agents were like, you will get real life murdered. So I opted to set it in Hamilton, which is not far from where I live. Um, the there's a kernel of truth in the book, which is to say that I had in real life gotten into a kerfuffle with my own parent-teacher organization in 2022 um, in Boxford. And the sort of there was a real dance called the Ziti with Your Sweetie dance that happens every year in Boxford, which my editor, when she read this manuscript, was like, "Oh my God, what a great name you came up with for this Ziti with Your Sweetie dance. What a genius idea that you came up with." And I was like, "I wish I could lay claim to that, but that is real." So I did not invent that. But I I do think of this in this twisted way as a love letter to the North Shore of Massachusetts. I love it here. I chose to move back here after 17 years in New York. Um, so the places that I reference, Hamilton, Ipswich, the Ipswich River Canoe Haul Out is a real place. Newburyport is referenced in here. Salisbury Beach, parts of Newbury and Plum Island. These are all real places and real places that I love. Um, you know, there also is a crisis of wealth happening in this area that wasn't always like this. I mean, I should say that Hamilton, Boxford, and the Tri-Town area where I now live was always a wealthy area, even when I was a kid, but has gotten sort of strategically wealthier in the post-COVID moment as real estate, and also Newburyport is suffering from this as well, as real estate prices have climbed, partly as a result of like bedroom community becoming more desirable after the extension of the MBTA into these areas post 1998, really, but also as people have taken on remote work after COVID and flocking to the North Shore of Massachusetts, like real estate has become really unsustainable. So, um, you know, part of what I'm looking at in the book overall is the interaction between people and wealthy communities and how wealthy communities function to sort of, in society and what it means to live in these communities and to preserve these communities or not to preserve these communities. And part of what I'm looking at is how to love these communities and what it means to kind of exist in these communities. But yes, the setting is really important. I'm not I'm not shitting on these communities. Like I love these places. I think that's probably pretty clear from the way I describe them. There's a satirical bent in here for sure. Um, but all in good fun.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, what I love about fiction is it seems like the different characters like have different comments about and different feelings about the setting. And like that was really like to me like very noticeable. Maybe just because I lived there and so it's like such a specific place. I mean, the constant references to Dunkin' Donuts were hilarious to me. I had no idea when I moved to Beverly. I mean, like everyone was talking about it, getting a Dunkin', and I was just like y'all love donuts. Like I had no idea it was an iced coffee,
It's a coffee.
Yeah, and I flatly, I'm a coffee snob, so I flatly hate Dunkin' coffee. like like when I first got one, I was like, this is water coffee. Like, what are you guys doing?
It's not something that you would drink as like a serious coffee. Like it's
No,
not, it's
it's a
just,
different thing.
yeah, no, it's a different thing. I mean, you can even see because RFK Jr. tried to come for it recently by like making people, he was sort of indicating that like Dunkin' Donuts we still call it Dunkin' Donuts, although the brand has actually shifted to just being Dunkin'. But um, he indicated that Dunkin' Donuts needed to disclose like the amount of sugar in the coffees. And like people in Massachusetts were outraged. Like they were like, you want us to do what? Like no one's drinking it thinking that it's health food. Like
Yeah.
that's not what this is. It's just a
Yeah.
cultural thing. There are more Dunkin' Donuts in Massachusetts than it per capita than any other state. It was founded in Quincy, Massachusetts in 1950 as a local donut shop, and the coffee ended up usurping the donut. Although I will sort of I will go to my grave that the chocolate glazed donut is actually, even though it's a commercial product, is actually one of the best donuts in the world.
Hmm.
Um, I've fought over this point before. But it's not like, and my husband is a coffee snob too, and he's like, the coffee is objectively bad. And I'm like, yeah, but nobody's like trying to argue that it's objectively good. It's just like something that we drink. Like
It's a
it's just
thing.
right. Just like a regular coffee is not what people would call a regular coffee anywhere else. It's actually cream and sugar. It's
Hmm.
actually
Yeah.
it's cream and two sugars technically, but
Yeah, totally. I mean, like I saw it kind of like the like diner coffee where I grew up. Like
right,
nobody's going to drink that because it tastes good.
right.
Like
It's just what you drink.
yeah, it's like there's like and there's something like nostalgic about it. Like I'll still go to my like hometown like diner and get the worst coffee ever and like I love it. So I like eventually like I got to a point where like I would order a Dunkin' coffee and drink most of it.
It's
It's like
just
a social experience.
it's what we do. And there are, I mean, look, there are people from here. My mother is a good example. My mother is a Starbucks drinker. She thinks that Dunkin' Donuts coffee is disgusting. And she's like, you can't argue that that's good. And I'm like, I don't know that people are trying to. And she's like, I wouldn't drink that. I'm like, look, you're some kind of snob. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, but I drink. Also, New Englanders drink iced coffee year
Mhm.
round.
Yeah.
We drink iced coffee. It's very cold here.
Yeah.
It's actually quite cold today. Yesterday was 90 degrees. Today, 60.
Yeah.
This is like, I'm still gonna go get an iced coffee.
Hmm. And
I
you know,
cannot explain this.
I totally like adopted that. Like that was like my like lasting, impact from the Boston area was that like I live in Seattle now and it's like every once in a while I'll get a hot coffee. Like, but it's like I have to be like sick or something. Like
Yeah,
I
it's
need
got
the
to be
heat.
real cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and we'll still probably drink an iced coffee with it, a hot coffee.
Mhm. Yeah, it's true. I know. Multiple drinks, yeah. Um, yeah, I loved like kind of traveling back there through the book and I love the discussion of class. The book itself, and like I know that this is the publisher that does this and everything, but I love it when it happens. Like the cover is so um like fancy looking, like it looks like a book that's going to be about a place that is wealthy, but to like sort of immediately like bring in the conversation about class was really like wonderful to me because it's like I often feel like when I read a book that's like about like the New York elite or whatever, I'm like, okay, guys, cool. Like I like good to know like more of this, but I felt like invited in because it was right there on the page explicitly. Um, do you want to talk about how class works in the book? I know it's kind of like getting into the
Yeah.
plot points.
Um, I mean, it's well, it's a big part of the book. Uh, so obviously the one part of it is the PTO. And this is drawn from real life. So the real life comparison, and I do integrate this into the book, is that my real life PTO had this tiered system where if you paid a premium price, you had early access to get into public school events. So you would find out about them first, and you would be able to purchase tickets to them first, and they would invariably sell out. So you would get, if you paid this premium price, then you would find out about them and you would be able to buy the tickets. And then the people who would not pay into the price, pay into the premium, would find out on the day that the tickets were released and they would be scrambling. And then when the tickets would sell out, they would sell out. And so not everybody, for whatever reason, they would book venues that didn't have enough space for all of the students. And then the tickets would sell out, and so not everybody would be able to have access. So there was obviously a tiered system, but obviously, despite the fact that it was a wealthy community, there are always indigent students and indigent families, which had argued in real life, and the main character kind of parrots my talking point, which is that this is unjust, and this is unjust in a public school setting where everybody should have the same opportunities. This sets in motion in the book a central conflict between the main character, um, then this is all happening in the past tense, who really believes that the PTO is making it easier for wealthy people to have access to things that she believes all people should have access to, all students should have access to. Um, that was true and remains true in my town and has not been corrected.
I like was completely unsurprised. So like I grew up in a really poor area, but then I ended up in high school in like the one of the best high school in Florida, and like everyone's parents owned casinos and stuff like that. I mean, just like wild wealth. And I was just sort of like, hi. But like that kind of stuff never happened at the schools where I went in like the regular parts of town. And I just like every time I like hear about something like that, I'm just like, what is happening? Like, where are these people's brains? It's the weird, like the fact that they just can't find a venue where everybody can go.
I mean, they could, right?
Yeah.
The funny thing is that at the beginning, I was reading Goodreads reviews. I've stopped because first of all, there's too many, and also it's not good for your mental health to like really see what people think before your book comes out. But one of the criticisms was like, oh, well, this is like really fantastic, and I could never, fantastic as in like unbelievable. And I can't believe that this would ever, like, this seems like jumping the shark. This doesn't seem like the kind of thing that could ever really happen in a public school or in any kind of community. And the funny thing is that that is one of the things, there are things where I bent the truth in ways that are meant to seem quite unbelievable. And I have taken an idea and stretched it beyond what is, practical or real, maybe in a satirical way. But this was something that was actually drawn from real life, and it's funny to have people's perspective where they're like, "Well, this could never really happen." Ladies and gentlemen, this actually did this really did happen, and I'm sorry to say that it is really happening. I'm sure I'm not the exception. I'm sure that there are other schools in which this is actually taking place. So,
Oh, I'm sure the stuff that I hear about schools in New York City absolutely
yeah.
blows my mind. Like it's like every single school is weird. Um,
Right. And this is a public school, right? So,
yeah.
people are paying their tax dollars into a system that is excluding public school students.
Yeah, totally. Um, I know we're almost at time, but I wanted to ask you because like one of the POVs is a man, and I'm always like, curious. I've never like tried to write from a man's perspective. It's never even like, occurred to me that there would be a story where I would, but I'm like, is that different? Because I feel like in interviews, I'm often hearing people ask men, what is it like to write from a woman's voice? And I've like, when I used to hear that, I'm like, what is the difference? But now I'm wondering, did you like think about that at all, or just did it just kind of come out?
I didn't know, but it's funny because some of my early fiction that I wrote under when I was working with Jhumpa Lahiri was from a male POV. So I think I've probably always felt pretty comfortable. And the book I'm working on now it's four POVs, and one of them is male. The rest are female. But I think I feel, first of all, I always write third person
Mhm.
POV, third person close, but and almost always past tense. But no, I didn't find it hard. I think as long as you know um, your character, I think it's okay. I don't know how comfortable I am with men writing women's POV.
Right?
That to me feels different. I don't know, maybe because
Yeah.
I just really believe so strongly in entrenched misogyny. That to me feels like, and I wouldn't feel comfortable writing from the perspective of like a black narrator necessarily. that feels wrong, but I don't I don't feel like it's crossing a line to write from a man's perspective. I'm sure probably there are some men out there that are like, you're crossing a line, but like they can eat
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, it's interesting because like when I was reading it, I was just thinking like I think like I totally align with what you're saying, but it's like it's the power differential that matters. It's like I feel like you can write up, but
Yeah.
like writing
Yeah.
down is not
Yeah.
fair because
I
how will you
agree.
know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
really interesting. Before we go, is there anything else you want to talk about and or any events or anything coming?
I'm going to be touring, mostly in Massachusetts, but also in New York. So I'll be at the Strand in New York on June 8th. And that is a ticketed event, but you can also, if you purchase the book through the website, you can bypass having to purchase a ticket. So I'd love to see people there. All my other events are on my website. I'll be in New England touring heavily, so I hope to see people at my events. I'll be touring. My first event is on June 5th, and I'll be touring throughout the month of June into July, August, and even September and October. And please make my book a bestseller.
Where are you going to be on June 5th?
I'll be in Massachusetts. Oh my God, that is such a good question. Like, so let's see, where will I be on June 5th? I'm going to tell you right now. Belmont Books, right outside of Boston at 7 p.m.
Awesome. I'm like 50-50 on going on a trip. I can't talk. I'm possibly going to be up there that day. So,
Oh,
and so
amazing.
I might be able to go, which is like the weirdest.
That would be
If
great.
yeah, I will know like the day before if I'm able to go, but yeah, I'll totally come and see you and it would be so awesome.
Awesome. That would be
Yeah.
amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I'll have some great co-speakers at a lot of these events. June 8th in New York, I'll be with EJ Dixon, who's just had a book out herself, and she's with Wired. I have other great people with me at a lot of these other events. So, yeah, you can check my website, hannahselinger.net, for all of that stuff. So.
Thank you for listening to Totally Biased Reviews, hosted by Asha Dore, produced by Asha Dore and Rebecca Torino Collinsworth.